On the modern battlefield, a giant bear held Gatling and fired at the enemy. Such immense recoil seemed to be something only its massive body could withstand. In an instant, the street was in chaos, with all enemies annihilated. What was astonishing was that several of its companions possessed superpowers, rivaling the heroes of the Avengers. Who exactly are these people? Are they set to become the new Fantastic Four? Days earlier, the Russian military was conducting experiments on a new type of combat robot. The technology was nearly mature, capable of accurately striking a single target, while simultaneously targeting multiple ones. This earned praise from superiors, and Commander Nick was ordered to initiate tank combat drills. However, the robot malfunctioned, seemingly overtaken by a mysterious intelligence. Breaking free from Nick's control, the increasingly uncontrollable robot launched an attack on ground tanks and airborne helicopters. Ultimately, it locked onto Nick through thermal imaging, and a missile ruthlessly consumed him. The training ground was instantly engulfed in smoke and flames. In the smoke, a mysterious figure appeared, directly taking away the robot. The next day, the military swiftly launched an investigation into the mysterious individual. It was reported that around 1940, a secret experiment in the former Soviet Union was announced. The animal and human gene fusion experiment led by Professor Karl was ultimately successful. However, Dr. Clar's project on controlling machines with thought didn't go smoothly. The government learned of the experiment's failure and cut funding for Dr. Clar. Clar was jealous and stole Karl's research results. He secretly conducted experiments on his own. Clar successfully developed several superpowered biochemicals, which were later detected by the government. Clar ultimately hid in a genetic laboratory, and the government sought to destroy him along with the lab. Unexpectedly, the explosion of the laboratory released chemicals that altered Clar's genetic structure. This transformed him into a super biochemist, with the ability to control electricity and machinery. This explains why he would lose control of the robots during the exercise. Since then, Dr. Clar has hidden himself, secretly plotting a grand conspiracy. An exhilarating confrontation is about to unfold. Now, the only hope to stop Clar is to find the superpowered biochemicals he created. Only then is there a chance to defeat him. Thus, the beautiful officer Nancy took on the important task of finding these hidden masters. Nancy searched every corner of the world. In a tranquil church, she found Luke, who had the power to control massive stones. And in the scorching desert, she found Han, the Crescent Blade Warrior. It turned out that he had mastered the art of teleportation. There is also the giant bear warrior Leon, and Nia, who excels at stealth attacks. However, Nia's invisibility is limited to water, and her skin can adjust its temperature freely, making her immune to extreme heat and cold. Nia can even control temperature changes with her mind. The nation has bestowed upon them the title of Guardians. Nancy quickly gathered them together. Upon hearing that Dr. Clar was still alive, a fire of vengeance ignited in the eyes of the four. After all, for over 70 years, Clar had subjected them to various cruel experiments, turning them into immortal monsters. The pain and hatred from these experiences were etched deeply in their hearts. At this moment, the military reported that they had tracked Clar's hiding place, using the locator from the tank he had taken. As fine rain fell from the sky, Nia felt the time was right, and the four quietly made their way to the battlefield. However, Clar had already taken precautions upon learning the news, and was fully aware of their actions. Beside Clar was a group of clone guards he had created. Nia cautiously maneuvered among them. Due to carelessness, she failed to adjust her body's temperature. Nia didn't expect the guards to successfully discover her whereabouts. Using thermal imaging technology, when the guards saw her near a nitrogen pipe, they suddenly ruptured the pipe, instantly freezing her and capturing her. Leon immediately transformed into his half-bear state to fight the enemies, but a specially designed electric net descended from above, binding him. As the net tightened, Leon exhausted his strength and reverted to human form, also being captured. On the other side, Han activated his speed mode, darting through the battlefield like a wraith. But just as he momentarily lost focus, a tranquilizer dart struck him. He instantly collapsed to the ground, unconscious. Now, only Luke remained from the Guardians. Fighting alone, he maneuvered behind the enemies, waving his hands as surrounding stones gathered, as if they had a mind of their own. The stones enveloped him, forming an indestructible rock armor. Then he leaped, and struck the ground with all his might. In an instant, a powerful shockwave radiated out from him. All enemies in the vicinity were violently thrown away. Dying instantly, he charged wildly like a bull, and slaughtered the remaining enemies. But at this moment, Clar appeared, facing the man who had turned him into a monster. The furious Luke launched an attack on Clar, but Clar easily dodged the attack. Then Clar quickly closed in, his iron fist striking with the sound of wind. Luke couldn't evade in time and was sent flying, his protective stone armor shattering instantly. Clar stepped forward and lifted Luke, who felt a sharp pain in his lower back. His long-standing herniated disc worsened, and he fainted from the excruciating pain. At this point, 3 of the 4 Guardians had been captured, and 1 was seriously injured, placing their situation in jeopardy. Clar imprisoned them in a specially designed cell, tempting them to help him rule the world. What he received in return were the scornful jeers from the group. Clar was completely unconcerned, leaving behind a harsh remark before turning to leave. He took with him the stolen tanks, cars, planes, and robots, and they set off for Moscow. In just a few hours, Moscow was engulfed in flames of war. Citizens were panicking and fleeing in all directions. Although the government resisted with all their might, Clar could turn all high-tech weapons to his advantage, leaving them powerless to fight back for a while. Meanwhile, Nancy led a raid on Clar's base. Amid the ruins, they found a barely breathing Luke, and successfully rescued him. On the other side, Clar had arrived at the base of a tower in Moscow. His methods were ruthless. After destroying the tower, he used trucks and planes to transport away the debris. Clar's true aim was to use the signal tower to send a signal, activating the weapons left in space by the former Soviet Union. Once activated, the shockwaves from the launches would deliver a devastating blow to any corner of the Earth. At that point, the entire world would fall into Clar's dark rule. Upon learning of Clar's conspiracy, the military immediately dispatched several fighter jets to take off urgently. They aimed to blow up the launch tower, and thereby prevent this apocalyptic crisis. However, Clar was cunning and had long prepared for this. With a fierce look in his eyes, Clar instantly controlled the hidden anti-aircraft vehicles. The cannons erupted with flashes of fire, as dense shells rained down into the sky. In an instant, 2 fighter jets were hit by the shells. Unable to evade in time, the last fighter jet successfully launched a missile. But unexpectedly, Clar had established an energy shield around the launch tower. The fighter jet, unable to dodge in time, crashed into the shield and fell. This setback left the military's operations in a stalemate. Nancy was extremely anxious, knowing she had to quickly find a way to counter Clar. So Nancy devoted herself to treating Luke. After a thorough examination, she found that Luke's waist injury was very serious, and his nerves had been severely damaged. At this moment, he lay in bed, resembling a vegetative state with no awareness. This left Nancy feeling as if she were in a desperate situation. Just at this critical moment, Professor Carl suddenly appeared. Years ago, Carl had engaged in gene modification experiments alongside Clar, but as the research progressed, Carl became aware of Clar's ambitions. It was a madness capable of destroying the world, so he abandoned the research and left that dangerous laboratory. With a sense of justice, Carl informed Nancy of the location of a secret laboratory belonging to Clar. He took out the last remaining vial of precious serum and carefully injected it into Luke's body. Then, a miracle occurred as the serum gradually took effect. Luke's body showed a faint reaction, and Nancy felt as if she saw a glimmer of hope. Then, based on the key information provided by Professor Carl, Nancy planned a rescue operation. In the end, she overcame the obstacle and successfully rescued the 3 trapped people. After losing most of her manpower, this added a new ray of hope to the difficult battle. Now the military had to place all their hopes on the Guardians and tailor equipment for them to enhance their abilities. Luke's armor enhanced his perception, making his control of stones in battle more precise and efficient. He was also equipped with a lightning whip as a weapon, dramatically increasing his combat power. Han received armor that was indestructible, capable of withstanding various weapons, not to mention tranquilizer guns. The pre-installed launching devices in the armor allowed him to be flexible and versatile in battle. Leon was equipped with an upgraded Gatling, which would automatically attack nearby enemies when he entered a berserk state. The firepower was extremely fierce. Nia's new armor granted her invisibility, allowing her to make anything she touched invisible as well. With their powers greatly enhanced, the 4 were ready, and the ultimate battle against the evil Dr. Claw officially began. On the other side, Clar was attempting to connect to the Doomsday weapon in space. At this moment, the Earth was on the brink of disaster. In an instant, 5 strategic missiles were heading straight for the tower where Clar was located. However, Clar remained calm, simply waving his arm, and the missiles instantly changed their trajectory. They whizzed past above his head and then exploded. Clar mocked the military for their overconfidence. However, the missiles were just a decoy. The Guardians on the ground had quietly launched a strong attack. Leon and Nia charged forward, with Leon instantly transforming into his half-bear form. He easily dealt with 2 lackeys, causing the enemies to panic. But enemies surged in like a tide, making it difficult for the two to break through. Nia quickly threw a weapon to Leon, who caught the Gatling, and began firing wildly. Then he leaped into the air, reaching the enemy's rear to engage in close combat. But at this moment, a shell suddenly struck. Leon was unable to dodge in time, and was blasted away. Seeing the overwhelming number of enemies, Leon completely unleashed his fury. He transformed again into the ultimate battle bear form, attacking as if in a realm without opposition. His tremendous firepower suppressed the enemies, leaving them unable to resist. 2 armored robots were also destroyed. Before long, all enemies were completely annihilated. Luke launched an offensive from the basement, his lightning whip in hand working, and wherever he went, enemies fell one after another. As enemies attempted a sneak attack, Luke instantly swung the lightning whip into a solid shield, deflecting the barrage of bullets. After the fierce battle, the 3 successfully regrouped on the rooftop. They planned to infiltrate the signal tower through the pipes, but halfway there, enemies attacked again. In the chaos, Leon accidentally slipped, and in an instant, he hung in midair. At the critical moment, Han spotted the opportunity, and jumped from the plane. At the same time, he shot a steel cable towards the wall. After stabilizing himself, Han directly severed the pipe beneath the enemy's feet. The 4 were able to continue forward, and successfully reached the signal tower. They found the energy source of the generator. Once destroyed, the related equipment and protective barriers would fail as well. At this moment, Nia stepped forward, and in an instant, the protective barrier vanished. Clar didn't expect the Guardians to break through his defenses and appear before him so quickly. Leon picked up the Gatling without hesitation and began firing wildly at Clar. However, Clar's ability to control machines was extremely troublesome. Leon was ensnared by lightning, and the current coursed through his body, causing him to faint. Luke immediately swung the lightning whip at Clar, but Clar caught it and threw him to the ground. Han seized the opportunity to teleport in front of Clar, but unexpectedly, Clar had already seen through his movement. Nia quickly coordinated with Luke, helping him become invisible as he quietly circled behind Clar. With the lightning whip, he bound Clar. Seeing the opportunity, Han drew his scythe and aimed for Clar's vital points, but Clar suddenly exerted his strength and broke free from the binding of the lightning whip. His immense power sent the others flying. In a life-or-death situation, Leon entered his berserk state again, and charged at Clar with a roar. Clar fearlessly swung his fist towards Lion, knocking him to the ground with a heavy punch. In a critical situation, Han immediately reconnected his curved blade, with one end of the rope secured to the plane. Using his teleportation ability, he bound everyone together, and under the strong pull of the plane, they temporarily escaped danger. They escaped from Clar's attack range. However, Clar wouldn't let them go easily. He released a current that caused the plane to veer off course. The plane was headed straight for a building. At the critical moment, Han quickly cut the steel cable, and everyone jumped into the water to escape. At this time, Nancy found the 4, and she learned from Professor Carl that the only way to stop Clar was to combine their powers into one. They would unleash their strongest attack, but the cost would be that their energy would be depleted. In severe situations, it could even endanger their lives. But the 4 showed no hesitation. They decided to take the risk to save the world. They touched one another, transferring their energy into Luke. As the energy continued to rise, Luke let out a roar and launched the energy sphere. In an instant, the sound of a violent explosion echoed throughout the sky, as nearby buildings and the signal tower collapsed in the blast. Clar also fell from the top of the tower, and this thrilling war finally came to an end. The world was preserved, and the 4 returned to their peaceful lives after the war. The film successfully attracted the audience's attention, with its unique superpower settings and intense battle scenes. The battle scenes in the film are highly impactful, and the special effects showcase extraordinary imagination. This creates a thrilling viewing experience for the audience. Overall, this film is a favorite choice for audiences seeking a visual feast and exhilarating action. Interested friends can watch the original film Guardians. If you enjoy my channel, please click subscribe.